Good evening and welcome to the January 2026 Mangan Park Neighborhood Association meeting. My name is Jennifer Holden. I am the association leader, and we are happy to have a wonderful agenda of speakers this evening. The first speaker is Andrew Powers of Senator Angelique Ashby's office to talk about SB 802, which is a bill being sponsored by Senator Ashby, as well as a couple of other updates from her office. After that, we should be joined by Captain Shiriashi of SACPD for the safety minutes, followed by a presentation on the current plan for AB 617 air quality monitoring, air quality, improvements and the CERP plan. And we're joined by Janice Lamb and Kathy Seychow of Valley Vision for that agenda item. And then we're going to have city council updates and all that good stuff. And so I hope you'll stay with us until the very end, because we are going to be finding out what that construction work is in the property on 34th that's supposed to become an organic farm soon. So stay tuned to the very end to hear the most pertinent Mangan Park stuff. In the meantime, Andrew, we are looking forward to hearing what's going on at the state legislature and with the SB 802. Please take it away.
All right, thank you. Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Andrew Powers. I'm the senior district rep with now Senate Majority Leader Ashby's office. And one of the things that we've been tasked to do in the district office is get some support for SB 802, which, if folks aren't familiar with, it establishes a JPA to address homeless and housing resources and funding amongst the many organizations and offices throughout our region. So what we've done is put together a little slide deck about some background information on 802. I have a couple documents that I'll upload. One's a brief history of JPA activities throughout the region over the last 15 plus years, and another one is an updated fact sheet for SB 802 with the most recent amendments that have posted since as of 2 days ago. So, and then we'll also share some information about some updates that have taken place throughout some different offices, including several city councils and some of the information that's been shared from the county supervisor.
Dennis Schroeder had 14 of his 22. Now a bunch of other guys.
Somebody's got TV or something on.
Yeah, that's not me.
I know what.
It says Jesse. Maybe Jesse needs to mute.
Their largest lead of the game. 11.
Jesse? Yeah, Jesse, we're catching your sound. I'm going to mute you. There we go. I think we got it. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. Okay, so let me bring up our slides and we can kind of go through some of this information first. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of background on SB 802 and what it does. It establishes Sacramento-wide Joint Powers Authority. Oh, that's not the first slide, sorry. SB 802 establishes a historic collaborative Joint Powers Authority for Sacramento to address homelessness and affordable housing through a unified approach throughout the region. Some of the current challenges in Sacramento, and I know I've discussed this with some of you that I'm seeing on this Zoom already, is so there's been there's an ongoing homeless crisis. Over 6,000 people. Let me. Sorry. There we go. So over 6,000 people experiencing homeless on any given night. For those of you that took part in the recent pit count this week, also, those numbers might change. But if you did volunteer for that effort, thank you so much. We did as well in our office. And it was great kind of experiencing that with the folks from Sacramento Steps Forward and the COC. Over 1,400 million, over 1,417 million invested in the past 5 years with fragmented results. That's, like I said, I've had that conversation with some of you on this Zoom also, resulting in wasted taxpayer dollars, a patchwork of inconsistent services, and missed opportunities to secure and leverage state and federal resources. Sacramento County does hold control of the state's Prop 1 funding, which they do not collaborate with other regions on. For those of you that aren't familiar with what a JPA is a joint power authority. It's a legal structure that allows cities and counties to work together. We do have several in the Sacramento region, for example, SACRT, SAFCA, Sacramento Public Library Authority. This region isn't new to JPAs. We've had several, and pretty much all of these are JPAs that our office works with on a regular basis too. So we think they're beneficial in so many ways and across so many spectrums. They also create a single point of accountability rather than fragmented responsibility across agencies. One thing I like to share from district office perspectives is that a lot of times constituents call in, and some of the problems that they have, particularly when it comes to homelessness and what to do about homelessness, crosses different jurisdictions. For example, we have an ongoing issue along Riverside Boulevard, and that tends to cross several state and local jurisdictions. We have land that's managed by Caltrans. We have land along the levee that can be managed by federal agencies at times. We have land that is monitored by the city and through DCR. So we work with that office. We work with council members' offices. So having a JPA would be, I would love personally from a professional standpoint, because I would just have one office that I could go to when folks call in about this kind of stuff. So I'm a fan. And what does this particular bill do? So it establishes a Sacramento-wide JPA, Joint Powers Authority, to address housing and homelessness. One of the things that we want to emphasize is federal funding cuts. So I don't know if folks follow up with Sacramento Steps Forward and the Continuum of Care Board, but they're going through a federal funding issue right now. And one of the good things about JPAs is that all of this money gets put into one pot. So, if we have these years where an organization is not necessarily pulling in the funding that they can, there is an opportunity for additional funding to be allocated for resources. For example, Sacramento Steps Forward and Continuum of Care, they organize the pit count, and they organize a homeless management information system. They manage sort of a lot of aspects when it comes to data collection and data reporting that other offices aren't responsible for, and other offices are responsible for other things. So having a JPA just kind of really focuses having one pot of resources that get allocated. There's one accountable public agency to coordinate regional housing and homelessness. We kind of talked about that earlier. They are subject to the Brown Act. They have to create open meetings, allow for public feedback, much like any other governing board, whether it's city council, county supervisors, the majority of which is going to be elected officials that oversee decisions instead of just appointed boards. They will unify, in our opinion, it's going to unify regional planning and funding. So one silo, one group to call. We've heard feedback from multiple offices that the multiple silo approach doesn't work. Well, the JPA is one silo. So, You can't get any more streamlined than that. Building, and it also builds on existing regional programs to avoid disruption of services. So that's, super important. We want to make sure that those services are consistent and the funding is as well. What will this JPA do? It will coordinate regional homeless and planning strategies. It will oversee regional funding and grants and set shared regional goals, performance metrics. It's also going to inform the community input. It's informed by community input and lived experience. So there'll be representatives from organizations. If you guys are familiar with the continuum of care, there's several organizations that are going to be included in this JPA. The continuum of care, Sacramento Steps Forward, Sacramento Regional Housing and Sacramento Housing Regional Authority, SHRA, is one of the agencies that's also going to play a big role in this JPA. So it's not just going to be elected officials, it's going to be everybody within the community. It's also going to include representatives from law enforcement and fire and several other agencies that, weren't necessarily originally thought of, but through the development of the bill have been included in as well. Why does it matter? So it's going to create local government accountability and improve community safety. Number one, everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from local organizations is, how is this going to help with accountability? If you have one agency, there's one group of individuals that are going to be held accountable for this, rather than going to the county or going to the city or going to any of the other cities in the region, because those folks are hopefully going to be included as well. Like I said, working in a district office, sometimes we get diverted to other offices and it's really tough just to find an answer for multiple offices. So having a JPA like this is going to be really more manageable in getting answers to these kinds of questions. It's going to maximize federal and state funding just by creating one pot. So in my opinion, it's going to be easier to manage than 4 or 5 different agencies working with 4 or 5 different funding sources. Align services with housing and behavioral health programs. Again, if folks are familiar with how this works in our region, a lot of those services and behavioral health programs are managed through the county. A lot of the housing resources themselves are also managed through the city and the cities in our region. And then, we kind of discussed what the continuum of care and Sacramento Steps Forward and SHRA and some of these other agencies are kind of in charge of as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. If we have, one vehicle that all those moving parts are a part of, it kind of makes it easier to oversee that kind of stuff. It enables jurisdictions to build housing and expand programs efficiently. Sorry. I have a kid that's running around. We're just really trying to focus on streamlining the process that a lot of these programs are kind of administered funds from. Past attempts, this is kind of the timeline I was talking about. So back in 2010, there was a kind of a failed JPA attempt between the city and the county. In 2011, the Sacramento Steps Forward was the first organization to work with the dedicated continuum of care. One of the things that Senate Majority Leader Ashby likes to point out is that grand jury reports have both of them have suggested of opening a JPA or establishing a JPA in our region to help close this endless loop of failure. So this is, it came out in 2019, it came out in 2023. and it's just not something that was really followed up on. There have been attempts, whether it's through an MOU or I think there was a partnership agreement or a housing partnership agreement. None of these are like legally binding options to hold government entities accountable, unless that's why the grand jury is recommending a JPA. 2022, city and county entered the homeless partnership agreement. Again, this is an MOU, so it's not necessarily like a legal binding law like a JPA. So again, it's kind of we've seen where that's in other words, we've seen where this 15-year effort has gotten us up to this point. Current status. So SB 802 is currently in the Assembly Housing Committee. Again, amendments have just been adopted as of 2 days ago, so it's going to be referred back to the Housing Committee and up for a vote. I haven't seen it scheduled up for a vote yet, but we do have enough votes to pass both the housing and local government committees. Small cities initially opposed, but have moved to neutral after a series of amendments. So this is kind of where the most recent updates come into play. Sacramento City Council has voted to move forward with a JPA model to the COC. Compared to the COC, the county itself is recommending a reconstituting of the COC, which requires the original COC to agree to, and that hasn't happened yet. So they're kind of shopping that option around to other cities. As of this week, Rancho Cordova has voted to move forward with the county's recommendation, but they've also moved to neutral on SB 802 from opposing it. Last evening, Citrus Heights voted to remain neutral on SB 802 and also remain neutral on the county's recommendation to reconstitute. The city of Elk Grove is remaining neutral on SB 802 as well. So the amount of opposition, in other words, the amount of opposition that's coming toward or coming at SB 802 from the cities is moving to neutral. I don't know if folks have followed what the county has been doing, or if folks have been following this situation very closely, but since October 28th, which there was a large meeting held, a large 8-hour meeting held between all of these government entities, the firm that was that put forth these recommendations, Mosaic, they also made an alternative recommendation to reconstituting the COC, whereas the county, if they're unable to reconstitute, they would create their own COC called the Sacramento Homeless and Housing Board, which essentially would be another organization that's in charge of another pot of money and create another silo to this current model that we already have. So there you go. The community outreach organizations such as Steinberg Institute and WellSpace are in support of SB 802. We do have several chambers and local businesses and neighborhood associations that have already submitted support for the bill as well. And the county is supporting taking control, reconstituting the COC. The COC does have a board meeting on February 11th, where I believe they're going to be bringing this up. I don't want to say whether they're going to agree with being reconstituted, but if I were a betting man, I would say no, that they would not agree to it. But that's just my humble opinion. All right, so in conclusion, SB 802 kind of provides a long overdue regional solution. It's built on lessons that we've previously learned from several attempts already, and it's focused on results, accountability, and compassion. So that was a mouthful. I know it was a lot of information. I'm also going to upload a couple of documents here, an updated fact sheet with those amendments, and then also kind of a brief overview of what the 15-year history of JPAs in the region look like. All right. I open up to any questions.
And
Yes.
I know that your time is short, and technically you have 1 minute left. However, Captain Shiriashi has just put in the chat that he has an emergency and he's been called away on business. And that happens with SAC-PD leadership. So we do have a few spare moments in the agenda immediately after this, but I want to respect your time. In fact, you have somewhere else to be too. So questions?
I have a question. Yes.
Yeah, I'm good. I can answer any questions you got. Take your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Powers. The big question for me is whether or not these are this is creating turf wars when you add another joint powers authority within an area that has existing ones and other organizations that do some of the work, even though it hasn't been successful necessarily, but it does create tension. Can you address that?
I mean, honestly, the real tension that or the real pushback is coming from the county. So there aren't necessarily turf wars. Like, I mean, as cities like going against each other, if you watch several of the city council meetings throughout the last week, many of them are already butting heads with the county, and the county is making the rounds. They're trying to bring the cities on board with their idea of reconstituting the COC. Well, that could be a battle that they don't win. Like, the COC has to agree to be reconstituted in the first place. That hasn't happened. So essentially, they may just end up going down this road of building their own Sacramento Homeless and Housing Board, but that's just yet another silo that these other cities, and we know for a fact that Sacramento City Council isn't going to be in favor of. So what SB 802 does is sort of force everybody to work at the same table. And it doesn't matter if there's turf wars or if people are, people will have these other entities, they're going to have concern whether or not they lose control of local funding, or they lose geographic equity, or some of these other concerns. But one of the great things about Senate Majority Leader Ashby is that she's willing to work with these people. I know it didn't seem like that in the beginning. It seemed like this bill may have been rushed to be introduced, but I think over time, and like, she's proven that, and she and her staff have proven that they're willing to work with folks on amendments. They're willing to take their feedback. They're willing to adjust SB 802 as needed so that these turf wars don't happen. So, I mean, I don't know if that kind of addresses your question, but it's an ongoing process, and it's something that Senate Majority Leader Ashby's taken into consideration, and her staff has taken into consideration too as this bill gets pushed forward.
Yes, it does answer my question. And the follow-up might be about what timeline are we looking at in terms of approvals, getting SB 802 up and running, for example?
I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to bills being pushed through committee and stuff like that, but I can definitely find that information for you and reach out to our ledge director and our ledge staff and get as much of a timeline possible. Right now, we're really just trying to get all of our ducks in a row when it comes to support, especially at the local level. So that's why we're making the rounds to the neighborhood associations and the PBIDs and the chambers and everybody involved, just to kind of rally local support behind SB 802. Because if we continue to get pushback from the county, we're gonna have to, get our ducks in a row and do the best we can to get this pushed through from our office.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have your hand up.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, do you have
Yes.
time or do you need to go?
No. I was gonna say, is this where like I put on my teacher hat and I call on the hands that are being raised and I get to pick?
You can. I guess I was doing the same thing and
It's
trying
okay.
to be efficient.
No, you're good.
Well, thank you. How much time do I have, Jen?
Oh, well, I'm sorting that out with Andrew. That's why I'm kind of guarding him
I
just
got
a little
time.
bit too.
Yeah, I got time.
Okay, well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. One thing, I didn't catch what the abbreviation COC stood for.
So the COC is the Continuum of Care. That's a federally mandated organization that receives, the majority of which receives federal funding. So I didn't talk about this earlier, but not all the funding for COC and Sacramento Steps Forward comes from the federal, but the vast majority does. And if another organization, if the county chooses to move forward with another organization, that's going to be 10% of, roughly 10 to 11% of the COC and the Sacramento Steps Forward's funding that the county's going to be responsible for. So is it worth having another organization within the county and the city to control that amount of money? It is a lot of money, but I thought the point of us working, with the city and with the other cities and the county was to reduce the amount of silos, not to increase them.
A few more quick questions. Yeah. You mentioned some of the other JPAs in the county. Are any of those initiated by legislative bills?
Man,
like this one is?
That I don't know. I can go back and look. But I can double check on that for you. But I don't know if they are established by bills. I don't know that legislation
no
off the
problem.
top of my head. But
do you know if any JPAs have ever been done by legislative bills in California?
I don't. I know our legislative staff would probably that.
I'm just curious
on this bill. But that's a great question, and I can find that out for you. I know while they were putting this together, they were taking a look at other JPAs throughout the state. So I can always, if there aren't some in Sacramento, there may be some in some other regions of the state, and I can find out that information for you and share it through Jen. No problem.
Actually, I was at the Meadowview Neighborhood Association last week, and Maisha Ross gave me your name and your contact information.
Oh, so I love Maisha.
I'd be happy to contact you after this with an email and get some more things entered. So
absolutely,
more time here.
I think we have Meadowview coming up on a meeting soon, or we've been in contact with them to try and get one of these similar type of presentations done through them. So if you're there at that one too, feel free to chime in and bring your friend along. All right, I think Barry is next.
Thank you and good evening. The question I would like to ask in regards to, if you would just follow up, earlier you stated that the local COC is having issues at the federal level. Now, just, quick perusal shows both Sacramento, Sac Steps Forward?
Yep. Yeah.
Sacramento Steps Forward, and then also the healthcare entity, WellSpace, are both not under investigation, but are being restructured, and both are having or have had issues in regards to false billing, yada yada yada. And to which the county is asking the question: should these guys even be our COC folks? Now, unless I misheard you, which Angelique Ashby's office is bringing forward is wanting to have both of these entities, WellSpace and Sacramento, step forward as the two providers, even though with their issues, not minor issues, but major issues at hand.
Yeah,
I'm just making sure I heard you correctly.
So WellSpace is there are several members from WellSpace that were on the board. If WellSpace is a provider, but they're not going. I don't at this point. If there was a JPA, I don't know if anybody from WellSpace would be on that JPA. So that's kind of hypothetical. With Sacramento Steps Forward and the COC, yeah, both of those entities. So with Sacramento Steps Forward and the COC, Sacramento Steps Forward is sort of their administration. They apply for grants. They help administer the homeless management system and the PIC count and the programming that a lot of the federal funding gets received for. The COC is a governing board that approves that funding allocation. So they're two different entities, both of which would be a part of the new JPA. And one of the things that Senate Majority Leader Ashby was trying to do was not reinvent the wheel, but bring everybody together with the systems that they have in place. Now, that's not saying that their systems and their protocols and that kind of stuff can't change once they become a JPA. But one of the things that a lot of these organizations were pushing back on SB 802 is that they don't want to change. They want to keep their systems, their protocols in place. And if they're working, fantastic. Yes, bring them in. There's a lot of great work being done through the county and through the cities and through Sacramento Steps Forward and Continuing with Care and through SHRA. There's still a lot of work that's being done, but is there improvements? Yeah, totally. And to me, through SB 802, creating one JPA, if there's changes that need to be made to those protocols and those systems, it's going to be easier doing that way than trying to address it with each individual entity.
I appreciate that. With that said, is there conversation of having any other provider, administer, or a health care provider entity other than Sacramento Step Forward and WellSpace in the conversation if this does come into fruition as a JPA?
I can follow up with the Ledge office and see if they've had conversations with other providers. From a district office standpoint, we haven't had those conversations, but I can follow up with our Ledge office and see if they have that much forward thinking with regards to how the JPA itself would be constructed.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Jen, I think you're on mute.
Herman, your hand just came up. Do we have a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Just to verify this is Herman Barahona with the Sacramento Environmental Justice Coalition. The amount of money that comes into Sacramento County altogether, I heard it was somewhere around $500 million a year. Is that true? That would be consolidated under SB 802?
I believe so. I can double check that for you. But annually we'd have to check the county's budget, but I can double check that for you, Herman.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay.
Come on, guys. This is a big topic. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, there we go.
Okay. So out of this 500 million or whatever, one thing is, who's going to manage that money? Is the JPA going to manage it?
So yeah, the board itself is going to determine how that pot of money is going to be allocated. So
Okay.
that's kind of because right now, like Hamon pointed out, you have a ton of money being managed by the county. You also have a lot of money being managed by the Sacramento Steps Forward and the COC. You have a lot of money being managed for projects individually by all the cities in the region. And by that, like I said, we're talking about Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, Folsom and Galt have a similar conversation that's taking place over the next couple weeks with their boards. We have Elk Grove, Sacramento City, obviously. You have SHRA. So you have a lot of different pots of money that are being allocated. So yes, you got a lot of money in the county, but you got a lot of money elsewhere with these other organizations too.
And so who's going to make the determination to prioritize, certain projects like homelessness versus, I don't know, some other, crisis?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of looking pretty far into the future. But I believe, the JPA is going to be made up of mostly elected officials. They're going to have those hard conversations of how money gets allocated for certain projects, whether it be in Elk Grove or Citrus Heights or Sacramento City or even countywide. So they're going to be responsible for it. And that's the whole point. Like I kind of referenced the October 28th meeting, and that was the first time a lot of these people came together in like 8 years, I think. So rather than, relying on that kind of infrequent like work between these entities, we want to force them to come to the same table and have these regular conversations, have the tough conversations, figure out where the money's going to be going, and be held accountable for it, effectively.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the thumbs up, Jesse. Yes, sir.
Hi. Yes. Does SB 802 will it prohibit individual cities, the county, going after funding on their own for homelessness?
No, because essentially they'd be putting it into the same pot with everybody else.
Well, some grants might be specific for a city, or some things might be tailored for
certain projects.
Yeah. So how would that work?
So that essentially wouldn't change if there's projects that have funding requirements. Then that's something that the JPA is going to have to monitor and approve, and go through the process the same way it would if it was brought up at their local dais. So it's not going to change anything. What a lot of these organizations are afraid of is losing control of that funding. And I think the current amendments at least have swayed them from opposing that. So there's been some work done that's obviously made these city councils change their mind and realize that maybe there isn't maybe that state control that they fear isn't something that they necessarily isn't something that's necessarily going to happen. One thing that I had noticed is that there seems to be this, for the lack of a better term, feeling of mistrust among local elected offices and state government. And that's something that Senate Majority Leader Ashby and her staff are trying to work through with the amendments on SB 802. So it's, these aren't deal breakers, and this conversation is going to move forward with SB 802 itself. And I think it goes to show, and it's increasingly known that Senate Majority Leader Ashby's sort of one of those leaders that these other local elected offices can go to when they have these kinds of concerns.
Well, she's definitely, if anybody in this state should be championing homelessness with her background. I believe she's a superstar, and I still don't have some clarity on how this whole thing works. But thank you very much for your answers.
Yeah, no problem. And we're here too. If you have any other questions, like I said, if I can't get it, I can get it from our ledge staff. No problem. And Jesse?
Yes, my question is 500 million really going to be 500 million to the homeless? And are the individuals that going to be handling that money, is that paid staff, whereas they would not be cutting into that $500 million? Because for what I'm understanding, they've been trying to solve this thing for a long time, and the word is out there that they really don't want to solve homelessness because there's too much money involved.
Yeah.
And some of that money is be taken out by other situation that's really not totally correct. So that's just what I understand. So will paid staff be the one handling this money where they would not get any money out of that 500 million?
Well, if SB 802 gets passed and the JPA needs to be constructed, I think that's not something that we can answer right now, but it's definitely something that's being monitored by the ledge staff. It's been brought up at several other local meetings as well. And the normal response that we get from our capital office is that it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. So they're not trying to hire or just open up a whole new office, so to speak. They're going to try to pull these entities together and use existing resources that they already have and systems that they already have in place to put this JPA together. It's not going to be something that's just thrown together from scratch. It's going to be using the existing tools that we have, so we're not starting from scratch, like, using money and spending money on systems and processes and office protocols that we already have in place. So it's going to be something that is going to be put together. But whether I can't say like how much staff it'll have, how many managers it's going to have, how it's going to be put together. But it's definitely something that's being monitored by our ledge staff.
Well,
And
good
I am
luck.
looking at time. We have another agenda item, but the conversation's going really well. But I want to check in with Kathy and Janice. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can we let this roll another minute or two, but also start wrapping it up here pretty quick, or do you guys need to be on your way?
Feel free to take your time.
All right, because I think we're having a great conversation here, but you're going to have a great conversation with us too, so I want to be respectful of both. All right, then I'm going to say, Jesse, thank you for your question. And Barry, I see your hand is up, and we're going to call this the last question and move on to our next agenda item here within a couple of minutes. So Barry, keep it brief.
Brief. That's an oxymoron.
I know, but I believe in you, Barry. I do.
I will. Just a quick question to Andrew, to your statement that no one wants to reinvent the wheel and they want to keep basically the same players in place, to which goes back to several of the questions that have been asked of you this evening. Both who's watching the money and the monies that have already been spent, we are where we are. So why would we want those same players? I won't even say we. Why would those who are petitioning for this want those same entities to be responsible for the monies and the outcomes?
I mean, I can ask the ledge staff what they say, and get back to you on that as well. But I mean, do you want my personal opinion? Because I could talk about it, but I'm afraid, I don't want to say anything on behalf of Senate Majority Leader Ashby that, doesn't jive with what the ledge staff is working on. So let me get back to them with that question and see if I can get, somewhat of an official statement, and I will get that to you and through Jen. And yeah, and I can also get contact information for our ledge staff that's working on the bill too. It'll be included on the fact sheet, but they would probably be the best ones to sort of answer that question.
Jennifer, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Jennifer, can I ask a follow-up or a close?
Is it one that you think has a 1-minute answer to it?
Absolutely. So,
all right, go for it, Alex.
All right, Andrew, what do you want us to do?
Oh, so we're contacting all the local neighborhood associations for support. So I don't know what kind of process you guys have for that, or we've received responses back from some neighborhood associations that said they can't do that for whatever reason. It's not in their bylaws or whatever. But if you guys have a process for, submitting that to your members, whether it's, a vote among your members or a vote among your board, or that, we would love to get a letter of support from Mangan Park and any of the other neighborhood associations. So that's essentially what we're stomping for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hey, Katie.
And I'm going to let this roll just another minute so we can keep SB 802 all in one place in this meeting. So, Katie, you said you have some city updates on SB 802?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context. For those who don't know me, my name's Katie. I recently joined the office of Councilmember Katie Maple in the city. And she was actually she's been a big supporter of SB 802 since it was introduced. It's my understanding she's been instrumental in crafting it, and she actually was the one who introduced the motion at City Council several weeks ago to pursue the creation of a JPA at the city. So I actually used to work with Andrew in Senator Ashby's office, and he really covered everything very well. But I just wanted to give a little more context on the overarching purpose of a JPA and why it would be good. I mean, you just kind of have to look at the current state of things, which is, we have a continuum of care that's kind of run through SAC Steps Forward, and they are, like Andrew said, federally mandated to manage a very specific pot of money, and that's the federal money that comes into our region for combating homelessness. It's a very narrow kind of responsibility, and then every single city and the county goes and does whatever they want in this kind of piecemeal way. But there's no centralized overarching strategy for how our region will respond to this crisis. So I know we've spent a lot of time talking about exactly how the money will get dispersed and things like that. We are very limited in how we get federal funding for homelessness, and it's my understanding that would not functionally change under a JPA, but what would change is, rather than having to go back to every single jurisdiction and make piecemeal decisions about how to address this crisis in their neighborhoods, they would all come together cohesively and vote together and say, this is the path that our region is taking. These are the kind of projects and strategies that we are going to focus on, and they will come to a consensus about it, and they don't have to go through and wait for every single city to go through and vote on it like we are seeing right now. Every single city has to go and vote to find out how we're going to reconstitute the continuum of care, or if we're going to reconstitute it at all. So I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of that overarching context as to why this is needed. And, currently elected officials do have some jurisdiction at their own city councils or their board of supervisors meetings, but they don't get a lot of oversight when it comes to homelessness funding. Councilmember Maple was just appointed to the continuum of care last month. Up until then, they just appointed 2 city council members and 2 board of supervisors up until then, there weren't elected officials on that board, which is why you're seeing this effort to add them to the board because they're the people who are actually being held accountable by their constituents, by all of you. So those are just a couple of thoughts that I had as I was listening to the conversation. I know we can get very bogged down in the money and the where is it going and who is it going to, but ultimately, this is about good governance and accountability and it's about how are we going to change what's happening now to really address this issue. So I just wanted to give a little bit. This is such a priority of the council members too, and I didn't want to rain on Mr. Powers' parade because they're the ones running the show over here. But I wanted to add my 2 cents and just share some of her thoughts on it as well.
Thank you, Katie. That is appreciated. And I see Armand's hand is up. I'm going to have to say, Armand, I think we need to handle some questions by email because it is definitely getting to be time. We're 15 minutes over the CERP agenda item. And those people are waiting patiently for their evening to start also while they're here with us. So I am happy to continue to act as a conduit of information and pass information and questions along. Armand, hopefully you see Katie's email, and Andrew, is your email in the chat? And maybe we send them all some more questions by email and let them give answers. The February Mangan Park Neighborhood Association meeting, as far as primary speakers, is already full. However, there's always time for the dates and the brief announcements, etc. So hopefully Katie and Andrew can give us some more updates at the February meeting without a full agenda item of 20, 30 minutes. And then the March Mangan Park meeting isn't even booked yet. So there's lots of room in that. So how's this going to be moving through the legislature? Should we put this on the agenda for the March meeting? And will that be timely to have a discussion at that point as more details are getting resolved?
I mean, yeah, that falls in line with our timeline. Like if that's falls in line with whatever process you guys have in place to approve that and get everybody on board, then yeah, that would be great.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to promise you on a recording that you have one of the 2 primary speaker slots for the March Mangan Park Neighborhood Association, and you, Katie, and I will set that date together and make certain it works for all of us. And we'll have you back for a full-on legislative update, full information, how the amendments are going, what's the tracking through the legislature looking like, all that good stuff. And that'll give everybody else in this meeting lots of time to gather their questions and be ready for a really rockin' and rollin' March Mangan Park meeting.
Awesome. Yeah. There's yeah. No,
please tell me which one of the handouts that you have with tonight that I can attach into the recording notification that'll go out in the next couple of days. So when this recording is on YouTube and it's public, I send out a big email to everybody on the invitation list that's like 150 people long, and I can include any flyers or handouts that you want with that. So when people watch the recording, they can also be looking at your documentation.
Great. Yeah. Perfect.
Any other last thoughts or comments before we move on to air quality? All right, I think we've got it done. Did you have something like an event that Senate Majority Leader Ashby is going to be promoting or making a call of action for? Is there something final on another subject you'd like to share with us?
No, not in the near future. We do have several events coming up, but I don't want to take everybody's time up. I can send that information to you, and that would be much lighter of an email, I suppose, from you than this stuff.
All right, I can do that, and I can get that word out across the line that way as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. You have been a fountain of information. I'm going to include Katie in that. Thank you both for bringing so much detail to this conversation and helping to prepare us for a continuing conversation. And Andrew, you are of course welcome to stay and listen to our air quality stuff. I know Katie's going to be staying, but I don't want to stay just because your agenda item is over. You've got to go now. We're not going to do that. You can stay and listen to this because the air quality stuff is really good also. And we're getting this CERP plan together. We're doing the outreach. There's talk about going to the high schools and getting the high school kids. It's exciting stuff. So thank you again. And Janice and Kathy, are you there, or have you been looking around wondering when this is going to be your turn?
No, we've been, I've been really interested in the topic that you guys had just discussed. So I'm really glad that I was able to be here to hear a lot of that. I am sharing my screen. Do people see my screen?
I see your screen.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Janice Lamb-Snyder. I am the Director of Community Air Protection at the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. I am here with a few of our steering committee members who are here tonight, as well as Jennifer. You've also served on our outreach subcommittee. Barry Boyd, who is a steering committee member. Vincent, I think I saw Vincent on there. And I know Jeff has been also attending a lot of our steering committee meetings as well as our subcommittee meetings. So, and Zaki JC has been a part of this development plan. So with that, is there anything that our steering committee members want to say before I kind of launch into an introduction of what we're here to talk about tonight? I want to make some space for that. Do I see anybody? All right. Okay. So first, our air quality agency is a local air quality agency, local regulatory agency that is responsible for reaching health standards, air quality health standards that the federal government or the state has set. And we do that because air pollution can cause serious health problems. And so there's just, a few things that we've listed here where it can, cause respiratory illnesses. There are, things from like fatigue and dizziness and even premature death. And so many of you may not, if you don't know the Air Quality District, you may know some of our programs. And during the winter time, like now, we run our Check Before You Burn program, which basically asks folks to not burn in their fireplaces or their wood stoves during poor air quality days. And that's, because wood smoke tends to be a large majority of the particle problem here in Sacramento during the winter time. During the summertime, you may have heard of our program called Spare the Air. And that is basically, same kind of concept, but we're asking for folks to take alternative transportation during forecasted poor air quality days. And that might be like, hey, can you walk? Maybe take a carpool, maybe bike. So if you've heard of those programs, we are the agency that administers them. So with that said, what is AB 617 and community air protection? So we basically, so we're responsible for improving regional air quality, and we've done that for many, many years. And the state of California created a law that basically said, hey, you've done a good job in improving air quality, but there are communities in the state that are overburdened with air pollution issues. So now we need you to focus on community level issues, bring strategies and funding to reduce these emissions and reduce these exposures. And South Sacramento Florin community was selected to be a part of this program by the state. There are 19 communities that were selected to develop a plan. We are the most recent community, so the last of this 19, not forever, just most recent one, to be selected to develop this plan. And tonight, we want to share some of the strategies that our steering committee members came up with, opportunities for you to provide comments on the strategies, and so really helping our steering committee and ourselves really understand if this is things that the community can support. AB 617 started off with community level air monitoring, and now we're transitioning, have transitioned to also develop a community emission reduction plan, which I will also call a CERP. So for the CERP, since we were selected to develop this plan, there is a legislative mandate that basically said, since you have 2 years from the date that you are selected to submit the plan to the state. And so we've been working with our steering committee members through various subcommittee meetings, monthly meetings to talk about the strategies. And we are at a phase where we're going out to comments or going out for public comment and looking to the steering committee would be looking to adopt the plan in March, and then it'll go to our board in May, our board meeting in May to be adopted. And then if it's adopted, it would be submitted to the state for approval and adoption. So there's like several steps, and we're several steps in the process for steering committee, local jurisdiction, as well as the state to approve it. The thing that I really want to emphasize here is that we do have 5 years from the date of approval, from the state approval, to implement the plan. And so all of these strategies that you see, there is a range. Some of them are more specific, some of them are more broad. During the implementation phase, there are areas where we need to, talk about, like, what are the projects? What are the projects? Where can they? Where can they be? So those are things that can be figured out and needs to be figured out during the implementation phase. I'm going to stop there really quickly. Is there any steering committee members that maybe want to jump in yet? Erman, I see your hand up. I think you're on mute. Erman, are you on mute?
Hang on just a sec. He might have his hand up from before.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to keep
I'll ask him to unmute. And...
Okay. Hi, actually, this is not Herman. This is Jesus Figueroa Casio. I just have one question for the lady who's talking. This is like this initiative you're proposing, how much pollution will reduce?
So I will get to that. I think that's in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
You're welcome.
So
And I said, really? I said, yeah, you're about to like it. And after getting all my teeth are
Erman, can you mute, please?
Please no more teeth.
I'm fine.
I'm in there. Just a sec.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, so part of the CERP development process, the steering committee had to look at, like, what are the boundaries that this plan is going to apply to. And when we first started the program back in 2018, it was a smaller footprint that you see on the screen right now. It is the screen boundary. So anything that we're talking about today is going to be that particular, applies to this particular boundary. There was a lot of support. The steering committee had done a lot of outreach. We've went out to public comment on the particular community boundary, and we've gotten a lot of support for that. So during the CERP development process, technical information, air quality information was shared with the steering committee. The state provided community emission inventory. So where are areas within the boundaries that you may see more emissions? There was also air quality data that was shared. And we had the steering committee participate in brainstorming workshops. And earlier I had talked about that we were the last of the 19 or most recent of the 19 to be selected. So there was a lot of strategies that other communities have already adopted that that was shared with the steering committee for consideration to see if that's something that they would want for the community, that would work for the community, or if they had any new ideas for the community. So it was a big brainstorming session for that. And what the steering committee had found out was there was lots of topics, lots of areas that like different topics and strategies that can help improve air quality in the community. And so, but there is like a limited amount of time, right, based on the statute where we have to submit the plan. So they broke themselves up into 4 different teams. One is called the Urban and Mobile Planning Team. The second is the residential, then it's the commercial, and then it's the outreach team. So, and in each of those teams, they went into like detail on like in the individual topics so that they can get deeper into the information. Then what they would do is that they would create the strategies, and then they would bring it back to the whole steering committee for vote to move forward. During the fall, the steering committee wanted to go out even broader to the general community and to, figure out like, hey, did we miss the mark, or, do we have support for the strategies? And so during the October 15th, we did do that, and there was a lot of support. And I think folks who were there, I think you see Jennifer there also, sharing the ideas of the different strategies like to community members. And then what the steering committee did, as well as the members of the public, we did a strategy prioritization exercise. And that's because this particular program isn't funded fully. And so while, they've developed 28 strategies, we know that right now we don't have the funding to implement all 28. So we asked the steering committee, okay, well, with the funding that we know now, how would you like to, which strategies would you like to see implement first? And as we get more funding from the state, we can continue to move down the list of the strategies that you have prioritized. Oh, Vincent, I see your hand. Did you want to go?
Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the presentation, Janice. So I don't know if we're looking for community comment or anything, but I appreciate everything that we're doing, the expanded boundaries, because I live in the boundary now, and the airport and the corporation yard are 2 of the biggest concerns of a lot of community members around here. But when you look at slide 5, when I look at that chart of the shared monitoring data, and this is the one where we talked about, it shows for the whole year, minus wildfire days, that there was no unhealthy air in Sacramento. And it's hard for us as community members to accept that and or even tell people that, because just this last month, there's been so many days of unhealthy air, and it's just hard to believe that whole year there was no unhealthy air. But maybe it was a good year that year, but it doesn't reflect the shared experiences of the community members for sure. So I just wanted to let you know. But I appreciate the presentation and seeing all the different things that we've done over the years. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into sharing what are the different types of strategies that the steering committee had come up with. In the urban planning and mobile strategy category, it ranged from increasing public ridership on public transportation with the community. One of the top priorities for the community was to increase tree canopy and safe and resilient streets. There's also things like industrial and warehouse use zoning, additional roaming inspections. The California Air Resources Board is also doing like additional inspections in the community, deploying them a couple of times a year, making sure that the trucks that are going in and out are compliant with the rules. And then in addition to that, increasing, like, how do we increase community input to truck routes? And how do we also maybe explore some clean mobility options with zero emission infrastructure, maybe increasing charging stations, so that people have more access within the community for these cleaner options. The next one that I have is kind of lumped in. It's commercial, residential, and outreach. There was a lot of like request for like public transparency and like permitting, permitted like sources and violations. There was also a lot of business education and how do we educate our businesses to transition to use cleaner technology or transition to a cleaner technology. Incentive for small businesses, increasing education for nail and hair salons for folks both who are like exposure of working in the community as well as like customers that are residents that may be going into there. In addition to that, source investigation and like focused enforcement in the areas. There was also some ideas on how do we, in the residential area, like how do we electrify household appliances with in the community? And are there any ways that we can reduce exposure, like indoor exposure to poor air quality? And so there was some ideas on distributing portable air filters, increasing air filters in public spaces, along with lawn and transitioning to a better or cleaner lawn and garden equipment. And then there was a whole few strategies on increasing the awareness of air quality, promoting air quality in schools, so folks know about like the health impacts of it, and maybe even potentially changing behavior, right, of like how to improve air quality with people's daily behavior, like taking carpool or driving, or what other mechanisms that may cause poor air quality that they can advocate for in like at city council meetings or county jurisdictions, like places where people make decisions about projects, that we can continue to build that capacity in the community. And then definitely building relationship with stakeholders and community members, and how do we have conversations so that, because this plan itself, I shared earlier, isn't necessary, doesn't have the full funding to implement all of them, but there are lots of agencies and community members and partners that can help us implement this plan together. So with that, the steering committee prioritized the strategies into 3 buckets. There's priority 1, 2, and 3. And so how we're looking at this right now is we, with the funding that we have now, like in hand, we're able to implement the strategies and priority bucket, I'll call it bucket 1, along with business education. And as we get more funding over, the next 5 years, and they're appropriated, well, the state has now said that they're going to be appropriating this funding because it's tied to the cap and invest auction proceeds up until I want to say 2046 now. However, they never really said, what is like the distribution for this particular program on an annual basis. Or we know what it is supposed to be on an annual basis, up to 250 million, but it's still based on what the proceeds are. So if the proceeds come in later or lower, then it would be lower than the 250. We don't get 250. That is an entire state that has to share that piece of the pie, so that 19 communities that are in the state of California is all using that particular funds to implement this particular program. So yeah. So then,
I'm sorry. I can't get my hand to work. I have a question on the lawn and garden. And so that piece right there, because there's a lot of self-employed individuals, working around, how did you say there was going to be some way that you would offer something for them, some kind of way that they could switch over to a cleaner type of, lawnmower or blower or what have you? How would you get to those individuals?
So I am going to go to our strategies. I usually have a whole team with me that has the specifics. I don't necessarily run the incentive program for our district. My understanding is that, let me just pull it up really quickly. This is lawn and garden, right? Lawn and garden is residential. Give me 1 second. I'm
sure
trying to make sure okay, residential lawn and garden. So the strategy is to establish incentive and equipment checkout program to expand the access for residents within the boundaries to replace existing gas-powered lawn and garden equipment with zero emission. So my understanding is that we would be developing a incentive program for people to replace their lawn and garden equipment. So it could look like, hey, bring in your old one that are not as clean and replace it with the zero emission battery electric equipment.
Okay. And how are they getting that information out to these folks? Do you know?
Yeah, so the program itself, I think when we go out, I think I have to actually come back to you. I don't know the specifics of the program. I don't think I want to go and try to remember.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just curious because, again, many are self-employed, small business. So, just curious. Thank you, though, for sharing that.
No problem. I'm going to keep going down. So what we did with this with the steering committee was that we did a participatory budget with the CSC based on the 1-year funding that we know that we have right now. So the 2.35 million is half of the funding that we get for this particular program that other areas outside of the boundaries is eligible for. But we have dedicated up to 2.35 million from this bucket to invest into South Sac. And from the priorities that were given, we then said, okay, have your priorities for, this is from an incentive funding. If you had, 2.3 million, like where would you put the funding? And each steering committee member, I believe, got it's like 3 stars, I believe, and it was like $50,000, something along those lines. And they were able to put the stars into the programs that they would like to fund. And these are the funding targets that came from that exercise. And a couple of them are, newer programs that we haven't done before. Some of them are existing programs. You see that they're a little bit lower because I think, and I don't want to, we have steering committee members here, so please speak up, that because some of these programs also have other programs at the air district that can also fund them, that they wanted to really use this funding in programs that hadn't traditionally been funded before, that have more flexibility in doing some of the things that the community has wanted. So that's where that funding target came from. But there's also like exposure targets where we know that increasing tree canopy can reduce urban heat island. They can potentially be exposure be like an exposure mechanism where they could protect folks from like a barrier to pollution from like one area to another. And so sometimes those are not like directly like calculated for emission reductions, but they certainly do have the benefit of reducing emissions indirectly or exposure or having exposure benefits to community. And so there are also in the plan those targets that fulfill those needs. And then this is my last slide. The plan is out for public comment until February 15th. We are hosting a virtual public workshop this Saturday from 10:30 to 12. So once you have an opportunity to take a look at the plan, take a look at the strategies, come and stop by the workshop, share with us your thoughts. And once you've done that, we're going to take all of those comments that we've received, bring them back to the steering committee, and we're going to be working with the steering committee on how to address the concerns and comments that that you may have. So with that, I'm just going to go really quickly and share with you how you can access the information. It's at our air quality website, so www.airquality.org. If you click on this little button called Community Air Protection, you can get to first where it says public notice for public comment period. You can click on the draft plan here if you would like. So that brings you a whole draft plan explaining our process, explaining the emissions, and what the steering committee, what the plan is intended to do. And then what we also have is a story map. We know that the plan itself, because it's very technical, is very long and is very long. And so we created a story map to help summarize some of this information to hopefully make it more accessible for people to, so it's like a summarized version of the plan. You'll see it has like partnership and engagement, community profiles, technical information about air quality pollutants, what the state and region, local agencies might already be doing. And then the key thing is the strategies and action. And so this is where I talked about like having 4 different categories. You can scroll through them of, what are the air quality goals? What are the strategy? How did we develop the strategies? And then if you want, you can like under, let's see, urban planning and mobile strategies, you can actually click in them and see what a summary of what the particular strategy may be about. And that we do that with residential, we do that with commercial and actions. And if you want to go to the deeper, fuller strategy, that's in the plan. And so there was a question about reduction targets, right? And like how much air quality or how much emissions are we looking to reduce? Based on the strategies and the funding that we have, in each of these is the estimated emission reductions from each of those areas. And so this is where you can find that information. There's also targets of the ones that I talked about. There might be Like, oh, okay, we want to distribute, 300 trees, or like, what does progress look like? Or what have we done, I guess. And then, so take a look at that. It's a shorter version of it, but the actual plans, if you want to just skip the plan, the technical information, and get to the meat of the strategies, they are located here. So you can either click on the plan to get the full thing, you can click on the story map to get a shorter version. And then you can, if you want to skip all of that and want to go directly to the strategies, you can click on each of these links to provide the different languages. We are still waiting for Farsi. It's still waiting to be QA'd, and hopefully that will be up soon. We also have FAQs. So if you have questions about the plan, like how was the community input used, like who helped create it, how are they going to be funded, when is it final, that is also available as well. And we also have a workshop flyer for the workshop that we have on Saturday. I think I've already talked too much, Jennifer, so I would like to share this space with our steering committee members who really was instrumental in developing this plan, to maybe share your thoughts, what you're hoping for in coming to the neighborhood association meetings, and really, talk about like the strategies that you all came up with. I don't know if Vincent or...
Sure, I'll go first. Great job, Janice. You captured everything that we've done over the last 5 years in a 30-minute presentation. There's a lot we talked about, expanding the boundaries. There was a struggle because this area wasn't in the original boundaries, and it was a suggestion from year one. And so it finally happened maybe about a year and a half ago. It encompasses a much larger area. Some of the strategies, I still feel that in the implementation stages, maybe we could fine tune some of what we're doing, but and look at some of these existing plans that we're going to move forward into, like the question with the lawnmowers. If it's just going to be the buyback program that we already have, I don't know how popular it is, but for the people who are running businesses, the equipment isn't as strong. And so it's kind of hard to convince somebody to turn in their good working machine for one that doesn't work as good. And so those are the struggles we're going to be looking at. And increasing ridership, public ridership, I think we can't just punt it to regional transit and expect them to increase ridership. We have to look at new ways and expanding. So I've been looking at some of the different businesses, the larger businesses that are locally around here, up 24th Street, down 47th, and offering them incentives to carpool, public transportation. And so reducing traffic that way is one of the bigger goals that I thought we talked about. And so I don't know if I see it in the I do see it there, but I'm going to be pushing for that again as well, because, I travel up and down 99 a lot. And so it's busy now. It's really busy. Going south is busy. And I'm going to start taking videos from the overpass because I have some time now, and I'll be sharing those with the steering committee. And I'm going to be roving AB 617 reporter out there in the community, because if you sit outside the corporation yard, there's big trucks coming and going every day. And so that industry isn't really looked at or regulated, or we're not talking about it, but it could be because it's just a city, a building. And Katie, I'm going to be contacting you about information about that as well. I wrote down your email, and we requested information on what goes on at the city corporation yard 2 years ago, and I've done it 2 or 3 times, and we've got no answer. So I look forward to speaking to you about it. Not that we want to shut it down, but if we can improve it. Becky, I remember when you talked about it 2 years ago, the trucks are idling right down the street from your house at the park. And so those things still go on. And that's what the city industry in our neighborhood, what happens, because we're right here. And so it's just there's a lot still to do, but the presentation was very well. And we will be looking to point the steering committee and the air quality management district in the correct direction that works with the community on these proposals. And I appreciate everything you did, Janice. I really appreciate you a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. Armand?
Okay, sorry about that. My phone. Um, we're the lone vote on that steering committee, and we get outvoted by a number of representatives that I believe their agenda items may be too narrow. For example, your initiative on tree planting, you're putting over $700,000 for trees when the city of Sacramento has a $50 million annual budget for trees. Why are we steering AB 617 money to trees when both SMUD and the city and the Sacramento Tree Foundation are investing millions of dollars to Sacramento? Why are we adding AB 617 money for trees?
So that's a question for the steering committee, right? I think we.
And who got the steering committee there is my question, because we got there by force. We had to push ourselves in there, but those steering committee members don't speak for the community, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I think when we went to the October 15th event, the information that came back from the broader community, increasing tree canopy was a very high prioritized strategy that the community wanted to see. So I think there is, at least from my experience from talking with steering committee itself, going out and collecting this information from the broader community, we have heard that increasing tree canopy is important. So I think that is why the steering committee decided to provide funding for those areas. So, Vincent?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but great question, Herman. And because it's a new strategy and not one of that we're adopting, say, a SMUD strategy or something like that, because it's a new one, majority of that is administration or expenses associated with creating the new program. Am I correct on that, Janice?
No.
I thought it was $468,000 to create the new program.
So the funding targets for the incentive funding. So this is like money that's going into the community out of the 2.35 million is going to be 783.33 in change. And so one of the benefits of this particular program is that it allows funding for things that haven't been traditionally funded, that may be harder to get trees to to grow to a mature growth, we know that we've heard that like maintenance has been an issue, keeping the trees alive have been an issue. And so part of this particular category is that the steering committee could help direct where exactly, like what projects exactly do those tree canopy projects can go to. So Jennifer, I'm completed with the presentation. I don't know if you want me to bring our thing down, or I see Armand has another question.
I do. I want to check with Katie and Aziza. We are officially over the 7:30 time. How are both of you for time?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, I can stay.
We're here. Can we like extend the meeting? I'm going to say we've got a hard stop at 8 o'clock because I don't want to keep you guys, past your bedtime for this meeting tonight. So,
It's past my
Janice,
bedtime.
it is not past your bedtime. I already know that. So let's see here. If Janice, let's do one more question. And so let's Evermon ask a question, and then we're going to roll on and hear about District 5 and Mangan Park specific news. And we can also say that we can do an update at February if there's more questions. And also, I'll give a big old pump to the event on Saturday. So, you know, if you are energized and have a lot of questions right now, they've got a big old information session going this coming Saturday. And I'll make certain you get more of those details in a follow-up email, which actually are probably going out on Saturday.
And also, Jennifer, just we also have our subject matter experts there who you know, may be able to answer more specifically on the specific programs that I'm not able to tonight.
All right, so we're going to do that kind of a redirect, and I'll always help people get information on this subject. I do officially sit on the outreach subcommittee. That is a little bit of what I do, is make certain people have access to this information. So, Herman, you have a question. Please ask your question.
Oh, actually, I have Jesus Cacho here who had asked how much pollution will these initiatives reduce?
Yes, and so I think I was sharing earlier. Let me share my screen. Where's my document? You can find that information under reduction targets and under target emission reductions, depending on the different strategies. They may have different, like they may reduce particulates a certain way, they may reduce NOx, they may reduce VOCs. So for example, residential lawn and garden, we have 51 total pounds, 774 NOx, and 4,728 VOCs. And so depending on the strategies that are implemented, they have different metrics for that.
I have a quick question from that.
It's the same thing when you ask for help.
I just wonder are we supposed to get to the 51 or are we supposed to lower it even more? I mean, right? We're using lawn and garden. So is there a base level that we're supposed to get to? I guess is my question.
A base level that we're
or something that's within the safe zone, right? I don't even know, because all of that VO2 and PMI, that I have no idea what that means, right?
Yeah.
So just the normal person like me, I wouldn't know.
Right. So I think I can also, again, this is, we can also come back with this, but let me show you. In the plan, it specifically talks about emission reductions. This is the, total tons that they are based on each of the lawn and garden. So how we look at it is basically like when you replace an equipment, you know that, it emits a certain amount and you're taking that out of the air. And so with the emissions that we, with all of the different strategies that we've listed in priority one, we would be looking to reduce, an addition of whatever, this much particulates, this much NOx, and this much ROG or VOCs. Let's see if I have any emission estimates. Yeah. I don't know if that specifically answers your question in terms of like how much. So these tables basically show how much we're taking out of the air by implementing these programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I think we are going to call that time for right now. And go to the next agenda item. This has been a really robust conversation. I'm very grateful for everything that you've brought to share with us tonight, Janice and Kathy. If you have a link to that flyer for the Saturday workshop, please get that into the chat. And if you are willing to take email questions, please put that in the chat as well. And I'll make certain that the chat follows the YouTube video when I post it. So people can, if they have future questions, they can contact you. And we'll just keep this conversation rolling and hope people show up on Saturday. And if there's still questions after Saturday, please get a hold of me. If you're in this meeting, you probably do know how to get a hold of me some way. And we'll keep talking about this because I absolutely want to raise as much awareness of this state grant and plan as possible. And I know that Janice and Kathy are working really hard to do this too. So Janice and Kathy, thank you so very much. You're welcome to stay and hear more about what's going on in Mangan Park. And Katie and Aziza, what do you have going?
All right. Well, thanks for having us. I really am here just to introduce myself. I started with the council member's office in November and quickly got swept up in holidays and Southside Santa and trying to get caught up on everything District 5. So this is my first opportunity to introduce myself. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I come from the state level. I was previously Senator Ashby's chief of staff and have worked in a few roles in the state capitol. But today I wanted to actually, the bulk of what we have to share, I'm going to pass off to Aziza, who's got some updates on our planting justice stuff going on. So I'll introduce Aziza, our communications manager.
Thank you, Katie. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you if I haven't. I'm just going to give some updates on the old tree nursery and what's going on over there. I know you have a lot of questions. I'm just going to share what I know right now. And then if you have any questions, it's best to email them so I can find out that information. So I'll be quick. So I reached out to someone from Planting Justice. Planting Justice and Three Sisters Gardens are collaborating on this project. So they're in charge of this project. They're building a community garden. And they let me know that the electrical is laid, that the plumbing is in, the sewer, they're getting their sewers ready for future bathrooms down the line. And the site is almost complete. They told me they're working on French drains for a greenhouse area, which is really exciting. And that they'll be sending me some videos of the site by next week, which I can share with you, Jennifer, if you want to share that out. I'll probably also post them on our social media in some way or another. And I'm really trying to get some more diagrams and pictures and plans. Those have been proven difficult to find, but I will keep asking everyone involved. Let me see. So they're planning on a groundbreaking ceremony in spring. They want to involve the community. And there's a big focus on longevity and continuous care in this project. So they really want to make sure that this is a long-lasting project. And when it comes to the community, they have a few ideas, and this is what they want to implement. It's mainly educational programming, and they want to get people of all ages involved with the community garden. Their Planting Justice has several nurseries, one of which is in Oakland, and they have paid youth internships there and volunteer days. So they'd like to do the same here. And they also have very interesting skill share programs, like how to propagate, composting workshops, and how to grow your own food. So yeah, on the topic of air quality, I think having an urban farm right here in Mangan Park would be an excellent addition. And that's all I know so far. I also want to share an event that we have coming up. This is a District 5 event. It's our Coffee with Katie event. I'm going to drop the flyer here if I can. Wait, oh. I'll figure that out. I'll figure that out later. But I'll share the flyer with y'all one way or another. And that's all for my updates.
Those sound like great updates, and I'm going to piggyback on your updates. A flyer for Coffee with Katie is on the Mangan Park Facebook page. So look up the Mangan Park Facebook page. Mangan Park NA might be the actual title. And I have the Coffee with Katie flyer pinned to the top, so it's easy to find. No matter what else goes in there for the next 3 weeks or so, it's going to be right there in the top of the stack for everybody to see. So look for that information pinned on the Facebook page. And that is also the day of the next Mangan Park Neighborhood Association meeting. So Coffee with Katie is from 4 to 6 p.m. and the Mangan Park Zoom meeting is going to start from 6 to 7:30-ish. We always do the ish at the end. It's how we seem to roll. So it's going to be a great day for civic engagement in District 5. You can meet with Katie in person for coffee and then go straight to the Mangan Park meeting and hear more and wider news. And on the agenda, speaking is County Supervisor Patrick Kennedy. And we have Gavin Raders of Planting Justice coming to do a full presentation on everything in more detail at the February meeting. So Aziza, you have done a great job setting it up, and we are going to keep working on this together for the next month, and then we're going to do a really big blowout on these subjects. February 25th. Is a Wednesday, February 25th from 6 to 7:30 to 8, Mangan Park February meeting. And so if it's county, I'm certain we'll be talking homelessness from the county point of view of some sort. I just don't know quite what yet. I'm working that out with Supervisor Kennedy's office. And then we will get it straight from the horse's mouth. Everything, and hopefully find out more about when the groundbreaking is going to be and when the educational and Skillshare programs are going to be happening. And I've had multiple Mangan Park neighbors say, when can we start volunteering? So I know we've got eager volunteers ready to get going and participate once it's up and happening. So do other people have questions for Aziza on either of these subjects?
Yes, I have my hand up. I was just curious, has anybody done any soil samples there recently? Because lead was found in the soil near that location, as well as water samples. I'm just curious what it takes for the city to do something like that.
So actually, as far as I know, that area is lead-free. That in fact, they already did soil sampling actually a long time ago, a while ago. And so that area is completely safe. I know the city would not have moved forward with a garden there if they knew it was, contaminated. So lead-free.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have one. I'm sorry, I think I missed when you said with the groundbreaking, or was it spring of this year?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. We've waited how long?
I think like more than 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Over a
Yeah,
decade.
it's been a long, I was going to say 10 years. It's pretty.
Right, because Planting Justice has had the lease to the property for an extended 5 years. And there were, I believe, 2 other nonprofits before them who were supposed to get something going and never did. So you probably know about the 5 years of the Planting Justice lease, but for those of us who live here, that property has been abandoned since probably like 2008, 2009. And actually, it's probably been more than 10. Yeah, that's been more than 10 years. If you live here, that has been vacant since, before 2010. I moved here in 2004, and it was a going property with lots of activity. And then certainly like 3-4 years after I moved in, it went dead and silent and started getting filled up with trash and turning into a public safety threat to the neighborhood. So this is a long time coming. Thank you, Kathy.
Not to belabor anything, just quick, are they have any plans to do anything with the gun range? And that's a separate topic, obviously, but
I was
It's a
just
separate
thinking that
topic.
I was just thinking that might be the place that has some lead contamination issues due to its previous use. So I'm not, I know we have a lot of requests to look into something to do with that area. But its previous use presents some challenges. I'm new here, and I've already heard of, I've kind of familiarized myself with the desire to transform that area.
yeah.
Well, I am happy to walk the park with you anytime. We can set that up, and I'll show you from the ground up what we're, what we love. Not just what we see, but what we love.
Well, I'm new to the office, but I grew up in South Sacramento, so I think I've actually swam in the Mangan Park pool as a kid. Yeah. But it's been a few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you probably do have some memory of what it looks like. We have big dreams. I know the city is cash strapped, but we have big dreams. I call it the original South area multi-athletic complex, and it doesn't look like it from the street, but just about every major athletic sport can be practiced in that 8.5 acres. It's a hardworking piece of property, and Mangan Park is in love with its park.
Yeah, everybody comes to it. Hollywood Park comes over here. Brentwood, yeah, they all come and walk their dogs and do whatever. Yeah. So it's not just Magnum Park. Yeah.
I've been known to on a fine weekend afternoon to take a folding table down there and a chair and to set up in the park a little sign that says Neighborhood Association office hours. Stop by, have a sip of water and talk to your neighborhood association leader, because everybody goes there. It's easier to meet people there than it is to come into a meeting. So yeah, it's where we go. It's a place we all love and we spend a lot of time. So we're getting the tree nursery next door to be a functioning, thriving part of the neighborhood again. Will be a big step up. It will definitely help the park out a lot to have that property occupied and productive, and something that will add to the neighborhood pride. If it gets up and going really, really well, I know a lot of people who will be very, very proud to say that they live in Mangan Park and they participate in a business like that. So I think we are at our hard stop at 8:00. And are there any other last thoughts or questions? I do want Aziza and Katie to have a little time this evening themselves, because they have probably just put in a 12-hour day. God bless them.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you. And before I log off, next Mangan Park meeting, Wednesday, February 25th by Zoom, 6 to 8 o'clock. Speaker at 6 o'clock, and he didn't want to back off on this. 6 o'clock is going to be County Supervisor Patrick Kennedy, and then we'll probably do SAQPD safety minutes, and after that will be Gavin Raders of Planting Justice and all the good stuff that'll be going on. So that's the February meeting. And the meeting the 4th week of March, we'll have Andrew Powers back to talk more about SB 802 and joint authority and all that good stuff on how we can work together on homelessness a little more. So it has been a grand meeting. Thank you all of you who stayed for this marathon 2-hour meeting. not just the speakers, but the participants who have come and asked so many thoughtful questions and contributed so much to this meeting. It is always better when you're here. And don't forget, Saturday is the air quality seminar, and I will try to get those details to you, or you can go back to the website that was in this meeting and go attend, go ask questions, go be as determined as possible to get all the answers to your questions, because as Janice said, they will have some experts there who might be able to ask the real answer of some of your real stumpers. So until February 25th, take good care. God bless and keep you. And I look forward to our next conversation together. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank
you.
Good night.